You need to keep Alvin Kamara on your bench for week 9. We'll tell you why next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Michael Fabiano. And on today's show, we're taking a look at the top starts and sits heading into a crucial week 9 in your fantasy leagues. And Fabs, I think we should start at the running back position. Let's talk about some players that we're benching. And at the very top is Alvin Kamara with Tyler Shuck now at quarterback. Why is he somebody that you should have on your bench this week?
First off, happy Halloween.
It's Halloween? I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I typically dress like this when I go out.
If you're watching with us on YouTube, you're missing it.
That's right. So, I mean, listen, I want good players in my starting lineup, and unfortunately, Alvin Kamara is not one of them anymore. He was averaging 10 points per game. He had 6.5 points against the Bucs last week. Remember, I told you that the matchup looked good on paper, but the Bucs had played a whole bunch of really good running backs.
Yeah,
Alvin Kamara is just not one of them right now. He's failed to score more than 9.5 points in 3 of his last 4 games, and now you got the Rams. So you have to worry about a couple of things. Negative game script. The Rams have given up the second fewest points per game to running backs. And yeah, Tyler Shuck. Do you think the Rams are worried about him? They're going to put a lot of their resources into stopping Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara. And I just, Kamara's going to end up being another one of those guys that we talk about when we discuss why running backs who are in the 29 or 30-year-old range start to break down and don't produce. And unfortunately, Alvin Kamara has now joined that list of players. Another running back that I don't love this week is Jordan Mason. And, you had been starting him basically every single week when Aaron Jones was out. But Jones came back last week. He took back the starting job. He played more snaps. He had more touches. Now, neither one of them was any good. And now they kind of cancel each other out. And when you look at the matchup this week against Detroit, they've allowed one running back, to beat them for more than 14 points this year. So not only is Aaron Jones Sr. a bad start this week, but so is Jordan Mason. It's one of those situations, Marcus, where you have two guys who are canceling each other's value out, unfortunately. And we have that sort of scenario on a few teams across the league. Carolina's another one where, if you got Rico and Chuba Hubbard and, even in Seattle with Charbonnet to a degree and Ken Walker. But this one's bad. Not only are these guys canceling each other out just based on snaps and touches shared, but the matchup's awful.
Really quick, our guy Ricky Scoops on Twitter the other day said that the Patriots are going to acquire a running back before the trade deadline. We actually talked about Tony Pollard being one of those potential names. Doesn't Chuba Hubbard seem like a potential guy right there? Like he's clearly
I would love it.
Yeah.
Anywhere Chuba Hubbard goes, his value would likely go up. And more importantly, Rico Dowdle's value would skyrocket.
I want to go back to Kamara real quick because I agree with all the points that you're making. Like this is going to be, you would think, a really rough outing for the Rams. The only thing that I think could potentially save Kamara is it's a rookie quarterback. They get down in these games and he just racks up the receptions. I could see it be one of these games, Fabs, where it's like, okay, Kamara has 8 carries for 40 yards and then 10 catches for 60 yards. And in a PPR league, that's a RB1. You hate to have to rely on that when you're putting him in your lineup, but I can see a scenario where that plays out.
I mean, it's possible. His pass catching numbers have not been great this year with Spencer Rattler, who's no great shakes.
But I wonder if that's because Rattler's pretty mobile. Like generally mobile quarterbacks don't like to throw to running backs, but yeah, go ahead.
It's possible. And if Kamara, that's the only way Kamara is going to help you this week.
I agree.
He's got to have 5 or 6 catches. Other than that, you are going to be disappointed.
Let's talk about some running backs that you are starting this week. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Travis Etienne. He's been bad, man. I don't know if you've looked at his numbers, but no more than 9.5 points in 3 straight games. And remember, earlier in the year, I mean, he was gangbusters. I mean, he was scary good. And now you're looking at a scenario where he's got the Raiders. And even though Etienne's been bad, the matchup is pretty favorable. I mean, remember earlier in the season, I was talking about the Raiders were kind of quietly not that bad against running backs. That's flipped a little bit. Their defense has allowed double digits of 7 running backs, including 2 with at least 16 points. They've allowed the 6th most points per game, the running backs. So I'm going to stick with Etienne and hope that things turn around. I also wouldn't mind picking up Bashal Tutin just in case Etienne struggles continue and maybe they start to utilize the rookie a little bit more. And then another player that you want in your lineup this week at the running back position is Vidal Sassoon. Kamani Vidal, 19-plus points in 2 of his 3 games since Marion Hampton went out. He has had a 38% touch share in those games, and he has looked great. And the Titans, I mean, let me give you a quick story. I am in a high-stakes fantasy football league, and I put in a near $100 bid for the Chargers defense, and I was outbid, Marcus, on a defense. Why? Because the Titans stink.
Yeah.
And so you want to play everybody against the Titans, and Vidal is one of those players.
Let's go to the tight end position because I'm fascinated by Kyle Pitts. Like, this is one of the guys that I can't figure out. We think Michael Penix is going to be back this week. We think Drake London is going to be back this week. Should you keep Pitts in your lineup?
Yeah, I would, because New England's defense has been bad against tight ends. It's really, the one kink in their armor from a defensive perspective. And Pitts has been good, right? 13-plus points 3 times in his last 4 games. He has 19 combined targets over the last 2 weeks. I know last week, no Drake London, so that's kind of an outlier. But New England has allowed 6 tight ends to beat them for 11 or more points. 6. I mean, we're going into week 9, and they've given up the 5th most points per game to the position. And tight ends, a dumpster fire. Unless you started Mark Andrews on Thursday night, congratulations if you did. He had a couple of touchdowns. It's just not a deep position. And as inconsistent as Kyle Pitts can be and has been for most of his career, I'm still starting him this week if I need help at tight end. And then I guess, and maybe this is like something that you and I could come up with, but Oronde Gadsden is so red hot, you have to play him.
Like, here's what I was going to ask you is,
how
many tight ends for week 9 are you ranking ahead of Gadsden? I'm assuming the answer is like Tucker Kraft, Tyler Warren, Brock Bowers is back, Trey McBride.
Yep.
Is that it?
Yeah. There's. Did you mention Ferguson? I mean, like that. There's not that many. He's up there. 5 or 6. You just wonder, like, at what point does the streak end? But I don't want to sit a guy while he's so hot. And the thing too is that the Titans actually, one of the things they're not that bad against is tight ends. They only gave up 9.3 points to Tyler Warren last week. But Gadsden's been so red hot, you've got to play him. And the matchup says otherwise, but it doesn't matter because, he's just been putting up great numbers. But it would be such a cool research piece to look and see, like, at what point during a player's hot streak, and not an elite player because they're supposed to put up great numbers every week, does that down game typically come? Is it the 3rd week of the streak? Is it the 4th week of a streak? Because he's had 2 very good games in a row. And again, I mean, there's very few Chargers that you're not starting this week. Maybe, Quentin Johnston because he's disappeared.
Well, I wonder if like it's these day 3 guys, right? That, they get drafted late, but if they find the field early and they start to produce, I think more often than not, they kind of don't leave the field. I think a perfect example of this is like Puka during his rookie year. Like, we were all wondering, okay, when is this Puka thing going to slow down? And it never really did. And if you're a day 3 pick that produces right away, you're generally a pretty good player.
Yeah. And I mean, Puka, you talk about a guy who, really came out of nowhere. I'm not going to compare him to like Marcus Colston, but
no,
you get the drift. So Gadsden's just a hot player right now. And he's a guy that a lot of teams probably wish they had drafted because there are a lot of opportunities for him to get picked in the draft before the Chargers took him.
I want to ask you real quick about Dalton Kincaid before we go, because Dalton Kincaid is somebody, he's going to be in a high scoring game, Buffalo, Kansas City. He's played well in these games before. He's had a week to get back onto the field, but you're still benching him here in week 9.
Where you have an alternative, maybe you picked up Gadsden. I like Zach Ertz this week. I mean, we'll talk about that. No Terry
Old man
McLaurin.
Zach
Jaden
Ertz.
Daniels is back. Love Zach Ertz. But Dalton Kincaid last week played 14 snaps and he ran 13 routes. He's been dealing with that oblique injury, and I don't know if that thing's lingering or not. The Chiefs have allowed one tight end to beat them for more than 10 points. One. So they've been very tough on that position. So if you start Dalton Kincaid, temper your expectations. And I also don't love Hunter Henry. I feel like he's been on the sit-em portion of our segment for a month now. And he had a touchdown last week, and Marcus, he still scored 7.3 points.
Yep.
And Atlanta has actually been tough against tight ends.
All right, I want to talk about the Arizona situation going on right now because they play the Cowboys this week, and that generally means just play everybody. But there's something weird going on in the desert right now. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep the game moving forward. And this week's moment that moved the game forward is we're just going with Lamar Jackson in week 9 on Thursday Night Football. It's such a relief to see him back on the field playing well. He threw 4 touchdowns. You can tell he's not 100% healthy, but that Baltimore Ravens offense is so much fun to watch when he's under center. And now we get to look forward to this Ravens offense in the second half of the year, hopefully putting up a bunch of points. And the NFL is just better, and fantasy football is better when we have Lamar Jackson out on the field. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight that Lamar Jackson seems like he creates every single week, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next basket to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late-game push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com and sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are talking about some starts and sits here in week 9. I want to talk about the Cardinals because I think you're starting every reasonable Cardinal this week. Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, Bam Knight, if you can do it. But what about at quarterback here, Fabs?
Yeah, and that's where you have to cover your butt, basically. So, Jacoby Brissett is probably floating around out there on a lot of waiver wires. If you have Kyler Murray, I wouldn't feel bad if Murray were out and you had Brissett as a backup because the Cowboys defense is just garbage. They've given up 17 plus points to 8 quarterbacks, 6 who've gone for over 24. So I think that's, unless you have, obviously, if you have Daniel Jones, who we'll talk about, or another quarterback that you feel real good about this week and you don't want to
I would
really
start
muck
Brissett
around.
over Daniel Jones this week.
Wow. Okay. So it's all about what your roster construction is and kind of what your quarterback situation looks like. But, there is going to be a scenario where if Murray can't go, Brissett's going to be a guy who will be started in a lot of fantasy leagues, and I have no problem with that. So, keep tabs. Kyler's been limited in practice this week. Keep tabs on his status. It's a Monday night game. We'll find out more probably on Saturday. If he goes...
Well, can I just update listeners on what's going on a little bit? So
yeah.
The expectation throughout the bye week, which was week 8 for Arizona, and going into week 9, with Kyler was going to be a full participant at practice, and that he was going to start at AT&T Stadium, where he's never lost in his high school, college, and NFL career, right? And then Arizona made an announcement on Thursday that Kyler Murray, who was supposed to talk to the media, would not talk to the media. Instead, on Friday afternoon, it's going to be a Cardinals quarterback. And there's some people that believe that this might be like a soft benching for Kyler, where it's like, hey, Jacoby Brissett's ran this offense better. Let's let Kyler be 100% healthy and kind of ride the hot hand a little bit. I don't know how much I believe that, but it does seem like something fishy is going on here.
Even more reason to grab Jacoby Brissett now if you were planning on starting Kyler, this week. Yeah. And then I mentioned Daniel Jones, who, I mean, comeback player of the year. I mean,
What did he come back from?
Sucking.
That's the problem is I think the voters have said, don't do that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. But 22 plus points in 3 straight games. And now you've got the Steelers. They've given up the second most points per game to quarterbacks, which is crazy because of all the talent they have and all the big names, and they're just not a good defense. 5 quarterbacks have beaten them for over 19 points. So Daniel Jones should be in your lineup this week.
I just get a weird feeling that this is going to be the bad Colts game that we get because it's, a game in Pittsburgh, outdoors. The weather's going to be cold. Shane Steichen has a really good track record against Mike Tomlin, but my spidey senses are going off here a little bit.
They're tingling, yeah.
A little bit. What about some quarterbacks that you should be starting outside of just Kyler?
Well, I mean, listen, when you're talking about Daniel Jones putting up good numbers this week, you've got Dak Prescott on a Monday night against the Cardinals. I mean, I think he's going to be a very startable asset for a lot of fantasy managers.
Bo Nix riding the hot hand on Bo Nix?
No, Bo Nix. Here's the thing. Bo Nix has been great the last couple of weeks. Play the Giants and the Cowboys. And I'm not taking anything away from Bo Nix because he's a very good quarterback. I mean,
it's
very good quarterback. The Texans are nasty.
Yeah.
Their defense has allowed 2 quarterbacks to score more than 13.6 points against them. And they're giving up 10.5 points per game to quarterbacks. No team in the league has given up fewer. So, things could go sideways and this could become a high-scoring game. But Broncos-Texans doesn't seem like that to me. Seems like it's going to be a lower scoring game and a defensive battle. So not only do I not love Bo Nix this week, I don't really love CJ Stroud either. And Stroud's at 18 plus in 3 of his last 4. And Denver is going to be without Patrick Surtain, but they did just hold Dak to 6.5 points, and they've given up the 3rd fewest points per game to quarterbacks. So I don't like both of these guys are super flex options. That's obvious. Bo Nix is outside of my top 12 though this week at the quarterback position. The Texans are a very, very good defense. And Bo Nix is not a guy who, to me, is like 100% matchup proof. He's just not yet.
But between the two guys, I think I trust Nix a little bit more just because he runs more frequently. Yes. But you're right. I think this is a game that, would it shock you if it's 13-10 going into the 4th quarter? No, just that's kind of the way that both teams want to play this a little bit.
Honestly, is there any player in this game where you feel real confident in playing them in fantasy? I don't. I mean, even Nico Collins, coming off the concussion, I don't feel super confident that he's going to put up a Nico Collins kind of week.
No, I mean, I think you have to play Nico though because of.
No, I'm not saying you sit him.
Yeah, you don't feel great. You don't feel like you're going to get your average.
Is there one player in that game that you like? Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this guy's fantasy prospects for the week. There's not one for me.
No. What about some other receivers that you are starting this week?
We've got some juniors to talk about. And you and I have already talked about one junior, which is Marvin Harrison Jr. And whether it's Kyler Murray or whether it's Jacoby Brissett or whether it's Jake Plummer. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. He's in your lineup, every lineup. And the Cowboys defense, that's what this defense does. It makes good wide receivers great. It makes great wide receivers elite when you look at it statistically. They have given up the most points to the perimeter. 8 wide receivers have beaten them for over 15 points, regardless of alignment. The Cowboys are just bad. And that's a high-scoring game that I would be projecting. I think you would be projecting that too in Big D between these two teams. And then another junior is Michael Pittman Jr., who's quietly been really good. I mean, he's averaging right around 16 points per game. He's had 20-plus in 2 straight games. And again, Steelers, not good. Their defense has given up the 5th most points per game to wide receivers and the 3rd most points per game to the perimeter. So not only is Michael Pittman Jr. a good play, but if you're in a pinch this week, Josh Downs, assuming he's healthy, Alec Pierce could also be a guy that you're streaming this week. So keep that in mind. But Michael Pittman Jr. has been awesome. And we all thank the fantasy gods for once that Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. And I can't believe I just said that, but it's true.
All right, what about Jordan Addison? Getting JJ McCarthy back this weekend. I think that's going to help his fantasy value. I don't think you're a little bit more skeptic.
I want to know why. Why do you think that's going to help him?
I just think he's going to be able to push the ball down the field more. I don't think Carson Wentz.
Did you watch the first 2 games that he played?
Yes. Well, I think
Carson
Wentz has been so beat up the last few weeks that I think he's been unwilling to stand in the pocket and deliver the ball. I think having McCarthy who can extend plays a little bit more, but I also understand the logic of it's McCarthy's first start back. Maybe they really try to ease him into this. I just think long-term Addison's value goes up now that McCarthy's back. But I get up benching him this week.
I'm in a league where I have him and I have to play him.
Yeah.
Maybe I have PTSD with JJ McCarthy. It's very possible. I will say this. Kings Classic. You and I are part of the Kings Classic. It's a big whole deal that happens in Canton. A lot of the fantasy analysts go out there and play against each other. I threw Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison out there and sent a message to the league and said, guys, I'm willing to trade one or both of these players. You know how many people responded? None. Everyone's afraid of JJ McCarthy. Everyone is afraid of JJ McCarthy. And this matchup is good. Detroit, as great as they are against the run, is not good against the pass. They're giving it up to wide receivers. But everyone's freaking out about McCarthy. And I am too. And you know me, sometimes I'm a scaredy cat. So I'll play him where I have to. I'd rather not, to be honest with you. And the same is going to go for Courtland Sutton, who do I like in Denver, Houston? Nobody from a fantasy standpoint. Their defense has given up 3 touchdowns to receivers who started their route out wide. And only 2, regardless of alignment, have beaten them for more than 12.9 points. Now, again, this Texans defense is good, and it's a home game. And I feel like this is kind of a statement game for the Texans too, because, they won last week. The Broncos are hot. I'm just very worried about a lot of Broncos this week. Even my guy, J.K. Dobbins, I'm worried about him as well. But Sutton and Addison are 2 players that I know you probably got to play. You got to temper your expectations.
Yeah. If you can get double-digit points in PPR leagues, you're probably going to be happy with that. I'm totally with you. Yeah. Let's talk about some streamers, guys that you can pick up or from your waiver wire or maybe at the bottom of your bench and start in week 9. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Rougier. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've heard them all before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body needs just a little extra support, and that's where Rougier comes in. Rougier.com offers fast-acting doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougier makes it so easy to get started. You just get connected with a board-certified doctor that's 100% online, so there's no awkward waiting rooms and no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's all about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that truly matter. So visit Rougier.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That is RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use our promo code LockedOnNFL so they know that we sent you. Rougier, stop making excuses and start making moves. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Podcast. 2 shows every single day. One in the morning with Tyler Rowland, one in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Fabs, let's talk about some streamers this week. Who are some of your top plays that are available in most leagues?
Yeah, by the way, for those of you on YouTube, I just realized I look a lot like Cam Newton today. And he wears this like every day. I don't know how he does that. Anyways, yeah, I mean, Matthew Stafford, quietly 25 plus points in 3 of his last 4 games. He had that 5 touchdown game overseas against the Jags. The Saints have allowed 2 quarterbacks to beat them for over 24 points since week 4. 5 have scored at least 16.7 against them. So Stafford is a guy that you've got to like this week. You got to like a lot of Rams this week. There's no doubt about that, including their defense. Kareem Hunt is getting put into a bigger role this week because Isaiah Pacheco is week to week with an MCL sprain. And we know Hunt scored a couple of touchdowns last week. They love him down in the green zone, in the red zone. Buffalo's allowed 7 running backs to beat them for double digits. I know they've faced some really good ones, but I mean, Kareem Hunt is a guy that I'm starting as an RB2. I have him in my top 20 this week at the running back position. And speaking of running backs, Bam Knight. I can't believe I'm talking about Bam Knight. It's week 9 and we're talking about Bam Knight, but I'm starting him against our lowly Dallas Cowboys defense. Listen to this. The Cowboys have allowed double digits to 9 running backs. Okay, 9. This is week 9. 5 have scored over 17. 3 have had more than 24, and 2 have gone over 31. The Cowboys stink. So Bam Knight's a good play this week.
Getting ready to suit up for him right now if you're watching.
Yeah, you should. I mean, listen, I think you should do that. They could use some defensive help. And then the last 2, Travis Hunter. I mean, most people have not been starting him lately because he's been bad. And before the bye week, he finally broke out. Brian Thomas Jr. is dealing with a shoulder injury. The Raiders are giving up the 5th most points per game. The wide receivers, they've given up 9 touchdowns. So if BTJ is at less than 100%, and even if he's not, I mean, I'd still play Travis Hunter in a pinch. And I talked about Zach Ertz earlier. Zach Ertz did not have a good game last week, but look at the splits. Zach Ertz with Jaden Daniels and Zach Ertz with Marcus Mariota. Zach Ertz is a very startable and productive tight end when Daniels is playing, and Daniels is back this week against Seattle. Seattle has allowed 7 tight ends to score at least 10.1 points against them, and overall 7th most points per game allowed to tight ends. So this is a very good game for Zach Ertz. Also, no Terry McLaurin. So if you need tight end help this week, Zach Ertz is a really, really good option.
My only knock on Zach Ertz is if you're watching with us again on YouTube, he's as old as the skeleton that's at the bottom of our screen. So that's
So what? He's old. Who cares?
I know. I just at some point it's gonna fall off, but
he's not. He's I don't know. It's like the fountain of youth. We've been talking about that since Arizona, and he blocked Trey McBride, and then McBride emerged after Ertz left. And then, even like Ben Sennett, we were like, oh, maybe Ben. No, Zach Ertz will not allow that. He will not allow that.
He did have Ben Sennett had one catch.
Angels loved him.
Yeah. Anybody else this week that you are picking up from your waivers and putting into your starting lineup?
Listen, I mean, Trey Tucker could have gotten cut in some leagues because the Raiders were off. They've got a good matchup this week against the Jaguars. So keep that one. If Cole Kmet doesn't play this week, and I'm not sure, Colston Loveland has the best matchup of any tight end in fantasy football because the Bengals just give it up. So I think that's another one I mentioned earlier in the show. Josh Downs and Alec Pierce. Downs is back at practice, so just keep that in mind. Here's a deeper one that maybe Marcus would like. Calvin Austin. I mean, if you're really in trouble this week, as good as Indianapolis is, they're not great against wide receivers. And so that's also a good play. And maybe we get something, out of Juwan Jennings this week against the Giants, maybe. Ricky Pearsall, I don't know if he's coming back until
those PCL injuries are
maybe like week 10. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe Jennings. And again, it's funny because Jennings was the guy we kind of liked going into the season. And now we're like, maybe we get something good out of him. But, the Giants could give it up to wide receivers. And Kendrick Bourne has kind of fallen off over the last few weeks. So, those are a few other options that you could potentially stream. And every time I say stream, I think Islands in the stream, Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers. I am dating myself so bad. I'm so freaking old. It's ridiculous. Kids, don't go and look it up. But those are some of the options that you could test out. And some of those players in redrafts might even be on the waiver wire.
All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Check out the channel on YouTube. You can see us wear these absolutely ridiculous costumes. You can download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy your Halloween. Enjoy week 9.
Happy Halloween.
We'll see you guys right back here on Monday.